What's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video we are going to take a look side by side with our very own 8Y Audi RS3 alongside the previous generation 8V Audi RS3. I'm here at 704 Exotics. They have this 2019 RS3 and it's gonna be really cool driving it alongside our 2024. We owned a 2016 S3, which is the 8V generation, for 2 years before we bought the new RS3. I've never really been able to drive the previous gen RS3 though. So with that said, let's take a look at how the new versus the old RS3 stand up. Was it worth us buying a brand new one rather than maybe saving a couple bucks getting the previous generation? Let's get right into it. Taking a look at the performance specifications, both of the Audi RS3s are going to feature the same 2.5 liter inline 5-cylinder turbocharged engine. On the 8V generation, this is pumping out 394 horsepower with 354 pound-feet of torque, and it's been tested 0 to 60 at 3.5 seconds at the quickest. On the 8Y, you're going to see 401 horsepower with 369 pound-feet of torque, and this car's been tested quickest 0 to 60 time of 3.3 seconds. Both cars have Quattro all-wheel drive, 7-speed dual-clutch transmissions. Curb weight is around 3,600 pounds for both cars as well. Another notable difference is the 8V RS3's front track width is 61.4 inches, while the 8Y is 62.7 inches, both cars having a 60-inch rear track width. So the RS3 has a very unique front stance. Taking a look at the exterior styling, that's where you're going to see a huge difference. For the 8V RS3, it's a bit more traditional for Audi. Got the nice hexagonal front grille, it says Quattro in it. I do like the silver trim throughout this car. Very nice, you can't go wrong. The 8Y is a lot more bold with this massive grille, a lot more black to it. Definitely looks a bit more in your face, so they've made it a lot more angular, a little bit more sharp overall. Has sparked a bit of controversy as far as the front end differences. Honestly, side by side, I like the character with the new one. It does look really sporty, really aggressive, but you can't argue that the previous gen is such a clean design. Very Audi. At the side profile, we have super sleek lines as expected. Just a gorgeous looking car. It's aging very well for a decade-old design. And then in back, once again, nice simple Audi. Really can't complain. And then for the 8Y, of course, a little bit more bold. You do have this fake mesh all down below, but once again, it just kind of adds to that aggressive modern styling. You can see the nice little lip spoilers, cool looking diffusers, integrated exhaust tips. And then side profile of this one, I really like how the fenders are much more bulged. So this has somewhat of a wide body appearance, and I think they've done a good job adding to that modern style with the new car. Starting off in the 8V Audi RS3, so here's a good overview of the overall interior. You are going to get the nice Nappa leather seats with the sweet looking stitching and then smooth on the bottoms. These are all manual controls. For the steering wheel, you have controls over on the left side. We do get a digital display where you can get the really nice virtual cockpit that of course Audi's pretty famous for these days, full screen navigation. So overall, really cool looking gauge cluster, can't go wrong. Paddle shifters, few more controls. The multimedia screen is in the center. It is not touchscreen. You're going to use this rotary dial along with all these different shortcuts to configure everything from all of your basics. So it's a cool looking design, very similar to all previous Audis. Obviously a little bit different than the new stuff. You have your drive modes with this select right here where you can configure everything right there, and you're even able to turn the screen off and just hide it all together. There's going to be physical climate controls down below with storage. You have two cup holders sitting up in front of the shifter, of course your shift knob itself. One last look at the gauge cluster with your temperature and fuel in the bottom section, controls over on the left side, and then this one does have a little bit of carbon fiber throughout it. Cool two-tone for this small flat bottom steering wheel. And then up on top, you're going to see all of your dome light controls and the manual sunshade, which can be closed or open regardless if the glass is open, which is a really cool touch. And then on the door panel, you got a little bit of Alcantara and then some smooth leather with the contrast stitching. On to the 8Y generation RS3. So you now have a little bit larger round steering wheel with this nice golf ball texture. Still have the same type of controls on the steering wheel with a very similar but up-to-date gauge cluster. Of course, you have the virtual cockpit. You can change all of that, which is a really nice touch to see. And then all sorts of vitals throughout the center. This one, you have a fixed screen all integrated into the dashboard, which does look really good. You can easily swipe left and right, all the modern Audi stuff that we are used to seeing on their latest cars. Drive select, you're going to have the button down here. You still have the same clicky sounds, which is a nice touch. And the gauge cluster itself even can change up a lot more. So really cool to see all those differences between everything. And then climate controls are also physical, just a little bit different with these toggles and a more clean LCD screen. Wireless charging and storage up in front. Got the little shifter in the center, and then the cup holders are in a little bit better position with extra storage, and then you can see the nice armrest. Now this also has the nice Napa leather seating with the different design on all the stitching. Really nice look to them. Door panels have a little bit of ambient lighting, the Alcantara, and the contrast stitching as well. Similar plastics and rubbers in the upper dash and doors on both cars. A little bit more carbon fiber for the new car as well. And then of course, a little bit up-to-date design on those headlight controls on the left side. You're also gonna get the garage door buttons and then very similar ceiling with all those controls, and then the same sunroof with that manual sunshade with the glass. So you can definitely tell this is the up-to-date car. Honestly, this does seem like a nice step up. I think they've done a nice job. We also get memory seating and power seats all around for this car. So sitting in the back seat with the 8V RS3, these cars both have a 103.6-inch wheelbase. But sitting here, my head is just barely touching the ceiling. It is a little cramped for my head. My knees, there is a nice little cutout, so I have some room. You're gonna see air vents back here as well. And then in the center, you can pull this down, and we do get a nice armrest along with storage, and there's cup holders that will pop outwards. So pretty decent amenities, dome lights, grab handles up above, and you even have the carbon, the Alcantara, and the nice leather on the armrest. So not a bad back seat in this one, just a little bit limited on headroom it seems. Now, while these cars are practically the same size, the reason I'm doing the back seat is because there is just a bit more room in the 8Y. I don't know why, I don't know how, but the headroom is a little better. My hair just barely touches up here, but over here, there's just a bit more room. At my height, 5'11", I still have those few inches with the seat. There's still gonna be air vents in the back, which is a great touch. And this one still gives you some amenities in the center, a little bit more simple design, armrests and cup holders. But overall interior room, there is just a little bit better use of space for the new car. They've made it slightly bigger without making the car any bigger. So starting off in first gear, you can shift from down here, which is a cool touch. I do love that 5-cylinder. So in this drive setting, it's definitely more harsh for the suspension. I'm starting to feel all the little bumps. And the steering, to be honest, doesn't feel as heavy as I remember it. Now, one of my complaints with the new RS3 is that the steering never got as tight and heavy from the old car. But, you know, it's been a while since I've driven one, and I hadn't had that much experience in my car when we first bought it, obviously. So let's feel this out a little bit. The dual clutch is still nice and responsive as expected. So quick on the downshifts and coming into a turn. I will say I love the steering ratio for the old generation. It is so tight. I only turned it, you know, a couple degrees and we were just hooking around the turn. So I do love that. And the steering wheel, it's actually the same diameter as the new one, but the flat bottom design and just the way it's shaped, there's something about it. I love this steering wheel. I know a lot of you do as well. Not everyone's a big fan of Audi's newest steering wheels. But the steering ratio is so good. It feels great when I'm hitting the turns. The car feels light on its toes too. And it feels really good. I mean, man, these cars are great. These cars are just so great. When you take the turns, it really shows how performance focused it is. Hitting the brakes too, they will rip your face off. They do exactly what you need. Now power, they're not really gonna be that much of a difference. You know, we're in third gear right now. You get up and move without question. You're not gonna have an issue with straight line acceleration. These are some wicked quick cars. And then as we play on more sweepers, this car is good. I mean, there's really nothing I can complain about with how it's driving as a sports car. These seats, I'm definitely not sinking into them as much as I would like, so they're not as performance focused as they could be. Another acceleration. Lots of similar characteristics. The one thing I'm noticing from my experience so far in the newer car, this isn't really all too harsh, and I don't feel that extra level of craziness. And it doesn't quite have an edge, I would say. Maybe if you're, redlining on the racetrack, but on a back road like this, it's not crazy edgy. I've compared our new RS3 to the new M3, how it kind of has that same level, just on a better price point. This car doesn't quite give me a crazy sense of like race car, I would say. It is a very confident car. It's got a lot of power to it for sure. But yeah, it doesn't have that on edge feeling. So setting off now in the new 8Y Audi RS3, some of the things I'm first noticing, these seats are a bit more comfortable. I wouldn't say the old car is bad at all, but these are supporting my legs a little better. The side bolsters are a bit larger. So for the performance driving, they're gonna hold you a little better. And just normal driving, I'm sinking more into the seat, which I quite like. So moving on to a fun road, you still got that nice 5-cylinder sound. The transmission in the performance mode is a bit snappier, and the suspension honestly feels a bit stiffer too. So you can tell already this car is dialed up more. I'm feeling these bumps a lot more than what I was in the 8V. Just as quick on the downshifts, and with similar mods between these two cars, you got that 5-cylinder that roars, has such a cool sound, so unique. Man, I feel like the power delivery is a little bit smoother, and that was just my first acceleration basically back to back. But coming into a turn, so overall the car feels just as planted and solid going around the turn. However, the steering ratio is a little bit different. It's not as drastic as maybe I initially thought coming from our S3 to this, but comparing these RS3s back to back, I do like the more direct, even ratio in the RS3 8V. This one, it's kind of like you got to steer it harder and farther for it to then start turning. It's just an odd feeling. I think it's a variable ratio, so it's a little bit different. With that, this steering wheel is actually about the same diameter as the old one, just I wish it had the flat bottom. I wish it was smaller and just more compact. But steering feels definitely better in the old car. It's not bad in this car, but there is a noticeable difference to make the other car just steer a little bit more fun to it. But other than that though, I'm finding this car has a little bit more response to it. It's a little bit more zippy in the RS performance mode. It feels more on edge and exciting, which is a cool touch to see. Equally, you can still go back into normal mode and it refines that say a little bit more. So pretty cool to see some differences. It's not drastic. I wouldn't say this is leaps and bounds better than the old car, but there are quite a few really good improvements to make this a better car overall. But then again, the new ones are gonna cost you on the used market still at least 55 grand or so. So these are more expensive all day long, which makes sense because it does have a lot of benefits to it. But it's cool to see how these compare back to back. Let's go back into the fun mode in automatic. Now you can still do the S mode for the automatic. It stays in a pretty high gear, pretty aggressive. Brakes work great on this. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. This car is more high-strung. This is more ready to be a race car. In automatic, I mean, this is shifting to where it's letting me redline. It's letting me drive this like a race car. The other one, driving it at a similar level to this, it's not downshifting that aggressive. This car is definitely allowing you to be more like you're on a racetrack, which is really neat to see. And then for power, they both feel pretty much the same. I mean, they're pretty much identical as far as the powertrain and the power figures. So nothing really noticeable as far as increases in power. This one apparently has been tested quicker 0 to 60. They're both fast. We've launched this. It's wicked fast. So either car you're gonna have a smile on as far as the acceleration goes. So for me, handling and normal driving are kind of the biggest things. A little bit quicker on some turns now. The steering is still good and direct. It's just that initial turn in is slightly different. but once you kind of get used to it, I guess, or once you're already in the turn, it doesn't really show as being crazy noticeable. This feels a little more responsive. Man, this is a fun car. I'll also say the suspension, like I said, it can tone down more. It also gets more harsh. It does help create this car giving a bit more stability, I would say. So around the hard turns, when you do hit bumps, it's really planted, hitting those bumps in a turn to where you don't even notice it, and it keeps perfect traction. It wasn't obviously having traction issues with the other car, but you can tell this just gives you that little bit extra confidence in a hard turn hitting bumps. There's a more sophisticated suspension, I'd say, in this. Just the tuning, it's slightly different, slightly improved, and noticeable enough to see a small difference when you're out driving in the real world. So after driving the 8V and 8Y Audi RS3 back-to-back, overall thoughts. The new car I do think is slightly better. I wouldn't say it's leaps and bounds better comparing it to the old RS3, but it's a little better. As far as the normal, comfortable luxury driving, it can tone down a little bit more and feel a bit more refined and comfortable. As far as exciting driving goes, the new car does ramp it up a little bit more to be a bit more race car feeling than the old car. Also, the new car seats are more comfortable to me. I feel like they support me better for comfort and performance. They're all power adjustments, and the memory seating is a great touch as well. So the interior, definitely getting extra luxuries. It's a little more up to date. The multimedia screens in both cars very well show their age. I don't really mind the old one because I'm not really that into all the screens, but I do like the CarPlay and the more up-to-date style with the new car for sure. The one biggest thing that I like though with the old RS3, the steering feel is a bit better. It's not as drastic as I initially thought, so maybe I've been a little bit too hard on the new car steering, but I do like the old steering wheel with the flat bottom. I know a lot of you like that as well, and the ratio just seems a bit more direct than the new one with its variable ratio, which I'm just not a biggest fan of. But overall, for the money, I think you can't go wrong. A good used RS3 from the generation before is a really solid choice. Now, if you are okay with waiting, it took us 18 months to wait for our MSRP RS3 brand spanking new. We didn't mind waiting. We had the S3, we were in no rush. If you are gonna buy a brand new RS3 right now, of course, only pay sticker. Don't waste your time with any dealer trying to go over that. But it might take a while. Allocations aren't, that many. So you might have to wait a little bit to get one. On the used market, the new RS3s are still going for sticker on the used market. We could sell a car for what we paid. This car, 45 grand, heck of a good deal, I think, and it's really well rounded. But super fun to compare the old RS3 to the new one to see if we're missing anything. Do we regret buying the new one? Should we have just got a used one? At the time, and even still today, low mileage used ones are like 60 grand anyways. So I feel like we did a great choice with the new car. I like the extra tech. My wife and I do use quite a lot of it. And I think the extra luxuries and the extra excitement factor are very well worth the premium price for a brand new one. But you can't go wrong with an old one. That is a great car on a much better budget. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content. Shout out to 704 Exotics for providing the 2019 RS3 for today's video. Check out their website linked down below, and check out our website linked down below if you're looking for performance parts for either of these two cars. I'll see you guys in the next video.